Breaking news out of DC today. President Trump has signed a new executive order aimed at lowering housing costs nationwide. With home prices still high and affordability at record lows, this could mark a big shift in housing policy. But what's actually in the order, and maybe more importantly, will it work? Today's video will cover these topics and give you some details that you might not be aware of and hopefully, Lord willing, hope. So, what is the executive order? Let's break down in what this order actually does. First, it offers incentives for local governments to relax restrictive zoning laws, especially in urban and suburban areas where housing supply is tight. And right now, that housing supply is tight almost everywhere. Second, it opens up access to federal lands for fast track affordable housing development. These are often underutilized plots that can be leased or sold to developers. So, once again, if there's an incentive in there for the developers and there's an opportunity for them to make money, which gives you the home that you want. I do not know if this applies to individual land plots for sale, but it's something else to keep in the back of your head. Third, it aims to cut red tape around permits and building codes. That's huge. Why? Because it makes it easier and faster for developers to build starter homes and multifamily units. And of course, we need to make sure that these homes are targeted towards middle class, lower middle class America, because one thing we don't need are more luxury homes right now. The rich can already afford those luxury homes. We need stuff for middle America. So you might ask yourself the question, why is this happening now? Remember, housing affordability has become a political flashpoint in 2025. I'd argue that it was a political flashpoint in 2024, and it was also a political flashpoint in 2023. Heck, there are people who are first time home buyers who completely feel priced out of the market, especially millennials and Gen Z. And if you're one of them, please make a comment below and share your story. Inventory is still low. Mortgage rates are elevated. They are not historically high, but they are higher than they've been. Construction hasn't kept pace with population growth. The administration is really framing this as an economic issue and a family stability issue. And if you have a family, you're married or you're married with children and still don't have your first home, please comment below because we do need to hear your story. So remember, home ownership is a part of the American dream. And I want to make sure that we're doubling down on this theory that this is not just good for an individual home buyer, but it's good for America to have people who are vested in their communities and owning property and seeing that appreciation because quite often your biggest asset is your home. And if you don't own a home right now and you're paying rent, well, I don't need to push that nerve anymore, do I? So the big question we really ask is, will this thing even work? So what's the reaction? Supporters say this is long overdue. Zoning laws are notoriously restrictive, especially in major metro areas. Like, we know that. They argue this could jumpstart housing construction and relieve pressure on prices. That's wonderful. But the critics argue, and there's always going to be a critic no matter what you try to do. Critics argue it's too little, it's too late, or local governments will resist. Some fear it'll actually increase demand without adding supply fast enough, pushing prices even higher in the short term. Well, okay, that's the critics, right? Others worry about environmental impacts, gentrification, or quality of new build homes. That there's such a high demand that they might not put the same quality in. So, and if you're one of those people, be sure you have your own individual home inspector to look out for your asset because you deserve quality and you don't need to be jerked around by any kind of a builder. So the real question becomes, what does this mean for you, middle America? So if you're hoping to buy a home soon, this may help, but remember, this is just signed a few days ago and it's not going to happen overnight. Chances are this is something we could start seeing as we get closer to spring. Now we're rolling into April, May, June, July, August. This is a time where lots of housing starts take place and people buy into new districts, new cities, and new parts of the American dream. If you're a renter, this might slow down rent hikes in the long term, but it depends on how many units are actually being built. Are they new homes? We don't want new apartments. We want condominiums. We want a piece of property we can call our own. Investors and real estate professionals will be watching closely to see which states are actually going to act on those federal laws and those federal lands opening up. And so, once again, depending on your state, there might be a real push to streamline this process and get people into homes. So, do you think this executive order will actually move the needle on home affordability? I do, and I think the president's offering hope where maybe there was no hope before. Would you support zoning changes in your city, or do you think this creates more problems than it solves? Is it robbing the present to pay for the future? I don't know what to tell you there. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. And you want weekly updates like this? Subscribe for more economic news simplified. I'm Brian. Thanks for watching. And remember, folks, the biggest battle we fight is the one between our ears. Thank you.